Right, James. So we're kickstarting the Love Lab today, and I'm really curious, defining love more than a feeling. Like everyone just says it's a feeling, right? All those butterflies, the emotional roller coaster. But you're saying it's what, more than that?
Absolutely, Emma. Good to get straight into it, innit? It's like if love was just a feeling, it'd be incredibly fleeting, wouldn't it? Feelings, they come and go. Think about it. You wake up grumpy one day, but you still love your partner or your kids, even if they've just, spilt juice all over the rug. So it can't just be the warm fuzzies, can it?
That's a really good point. You totally still love them even when they're driving you a bit, well, bananas. So if it's not just a feeling, then what's like the bigger picture we should be looking at here? What are we missing?
Well, precisely. We're talking about a really complex interplay, aren't we? It's biological, it's psychological, it's behavioral. It's all these layers that make it, such a fundamental part of the human experience. It's not just a single emotion. It's a constellation of them, coupled with actions and thoughts and, well, commitment. That's really key, I think.
Okay, so it's like a whole system, not just an output. That kind of shifts my perspective immediately. I've always thought of it as, just something that happens to you, a spontaneous rush. But system implies structure, intention even?
Yeah, exactly. And let's start with the biological bit, shall we? Because that's often where people get stuck on the feeling aspect. When you're first falling for someone, your brain is absolutely swimming in chemicals. We're talking dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, a whole cocktail, really.
Oh, right, the feel-good stuff. So like dopamine for the reward and pleasure, oxytocin for bonding, right? I've heard those mentioned like a lot in articles about new relationships.
Spot on, Emma. Dopamine gives you that euphoric rush, that intense desire and motivation to be with someone. It's why new love feels so addictive, almost. And oxytocin, yeah, that's the cuddle hormone, the one that really cements attachment and trust. It's released during physical intimacy, social bonding, even just a nice hug. But the thing is, those initial rushes, they do subside, don't they? They're really strong at the beginning, but they can't sustain a lifetime of connection.
So like the biology gets the ball rolling, but it's not the whole story for, the long haul. That makes sense. Because if it was just those chemicals, everyone would just be chasing the next like dopamine hit, right? So what happens when that initial chemical frenzy settles down?
Precisely. When that initial intense rush mellows, that's when the other components of love really come into play. That's when you start seeing the deeper, more enduring aspects, where the more than a feeling truly shines through. It transitions from a purely chemical attraction to something, well, far more profound. Something that requires, actual effort and understanding.
Okay, so once the brain chemistry calms a bit, what's next? You mentioned psychological aspects. Is that like about how we think about love or our past experiences shaping it?
Both, actually, and more. Psychologically, love involves things like attachment styles, which are often formed in childhood. Do you know about attachment theory, Emma?
I've heard bits and pieces, yeah. Something about secure, anxious, avoidant, that kind of thing. So our early relationships with caregivers like shape how we love as adults?
Spot on again. So if you had a secure attachment as a child, you're more likely to form healthy, trusting adult relationships, whereas, anxious or avoidant styles can create patterns in how we approach intimacy. But it's not just that, it's also cognitive processes, shared values, mutual respect, understanding, empathy. Those things aren't just feelings, they're active choices and ways of, engaging with another person's world. You're consciously building something together, aren't you?
Wow. So it's not just I feel good with this person, but I actively choose to respect and understand this person. And that's a massive difference. It means love requires work.
It's an active process, a decision really, day in and day out. That's why, some people talk about love as a verb. It's what you do, what you think, how you connect, not just what you passively experience. It's a continuous investment.
And that brings us really nicely to the behavioral aspect. Because, you can feel something, you can think something, but if your actions don't align, is it really love? I mean, what do you think, Emma? Do actions, do they speak louder than words?
Oh, absolutely, like totally. My mom always said that. You know, you can say I love you all day long, but if you're not showing up or doing things or being supportive, it kind of falls flat, doesn't it? So, like, what kind of behaviors are we talking about here?
Right, well, we're talking about things like commitment, support, acts of service, quality time, demonstrating empathy, problem solving together, making sacrifices even. You know, it's those everyday gestures, the big ones and the small ones, that truly build and sustain a loving relationship. It's being there, really being present. It's about showing up, as you said. It's about putting the other person's needs, well, sometimes before your own. It's not always easy, is it? But that's the core of it.
So, like the practical stuff, like remembering their favorite coffee or helping them out with a tough project or just listening when they're having a bad day. Those little and big things that show you care. That makes so much sense because the feeling can fluctuate, but those actions are like consistently there.
Exactly. And this is where love becomes a choice, a daily practice, rather than just a spontaneous burst of emotion. It's the consistent effort that transforms it into, a deep, resilient bond. It's the scaffolding that holds everything together when the initial feelings might waver a bit.
Okay, so we've got the biological, the psychological, the behavioral. That's already way more complex than I thought. But what about the world around us? Like, do different cultures, or even just like what society tells us, impact how we define love?
Oh, absolutely, Emma. Massively. Culture plays a huge role. What's considered romantic in one society might be totally different in another. Think about arranged marriages, for example. In many cultures, the idea of falling in love before marriage is, well, quite foreign. Love is often seen as something that grows within the marriage, cultivated through shared life and commitment, rather than being the prerequisite for it.
That's a really good point. I guess living in a Western society, we're just like bombarded with this idea of love at first sight and happily ever after from movies and songs. It's hard to imagine love being defined in other ways.
Exactly. And it's not just, grand gestures. Things like public displays of affection, the role of family in a relationship, expectations around gender roles within a partnership. All of it is deeply influenced by cultural norms and societal expectations. Media, literature, even historical periods shape our understanding. Our concept of romantic love as we mostly understand it today is, it's quite a modern construct, believe it or not.
So what we think of as love isn't like universal, but rather a product of our specific time and place. That's a bit mind-bending, actually. It means our personal definitions are like partially borrowed.
Well, precisely. And understanding this really matters. Because if we just expect love to be this, constant gush of emotion, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. When those intense feelings naturally ebb and flow, we might think the love is gone, but it's not.
Yeah, that's a huge insight. So if we know it's not just a feeling, we're better equipped to navigate the ups and downs. Like, we won't panic when the butterflies disappear because we know there's more to it.
Exactly. It allows for greater empathy, greater understanding, and ultimately far more resilient relationships. It helps us see love as something we actively build and maintain, rather than something that just happens to us passively. And it empowers us to put in the work, to communicate, to forgive, to support, to choose, really, to love, even when it's, a bit difficult.
So, like, embracing this complexity isn't just academic. It's super practical for actually having better relationships in real life. That's a brilliant takeaway for our first episode, James. I feel like my whole concept of love just, expanded.
Glad to hear it, Emma. That's what the Love Lab is all about, isn't it? Peeling back the layers and understanding these fundamental human experiences with a bit more depth. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep loving.